One of the things that can be really surprising when you go to start canning your own jam and jelly is that a lot of the recipes contain more sugar than fruit. And even if you're not someone who is sensitive to sugar in your diet, sometimes those recipes are just so sweet that you can't even really taste the fruit anymore. The short answer is just to find a safe recipe that uses less sugar, but that can be really difficult on the internet. So these are 3 reliable sources. We've got healthycanning.com. They, in general, are a very well-researched and reliable site. foodinjars.com and pomonaspectin.com, which we'll get into a little bit later. But if you're like me and need to know the reasons behind everything, I'm gonna break down how to go about this safely and end up with something that you actually want to eat at the end. So if we're gonna replace or remove sugar from these recipes, it's helpful to know what role sugar is playing beyond just adding sweetness. Sugar is a natural preservative, so it's gonna keep the color, texture, and flavor of your jam good for longer, whether that is on the shelf or open in your fridge. Normally you would have about 18 months before the eating quality of your jam starts to decline, but without as much sugar, that is going to be shorter. It's still completely safe to eat, it's just not quite as appetizing, and that is especially true for jams that are red and pink. They are going to turn brown faster because the color compounds are going to oxidize, especially if you're not adding any other acids to help preserve that color. And once you open it and you're storing it in the fridge, jam with little to no sugar content is going to develop mold within a couple of weeks. Sugar also plays a really big role in the texture of your jam. For a lot of fruits, you've got 2 choices when you go to make jam. You can do a traditional long cook method that is slowly cooking things down, caramelizing those sugars, activating the pectin the long way around. Or you can add pectin, which means that you get to retain more of that fresh flavor of the fruit. But standard added pectin needs like 50% sugar in the recipe to activate properly. Since the jam won't last as long, you want to can things closer to when you are ready to use them. That is why today I am going to be canning some raspberries that I froze last summer. And you might want to use smaller jars so that when you open it up, there is less to store in the fridge and less waste. Sugar does not have all that much of an impact on the safety of your recipe. That all comes down to the acidity. A lot of fruits are already acidic enough to where you don't have to worry about this, but for something like a melon jelly, for example, you're going to have to add a lot of acid, and that might make your final product not very palatable if you also tried to reduce the sugar. My favorite way to get really good texture and flavor is to use Pomona's pectin. You can use little to no sugar with this. In fact, you don't want to use too much sugar or that will negatively impact the results. But the thing to keep in mind is that a little goes a long way with this. With traditional pectin, 1 box is good for 1 recipe. This has enough for like 4 recipes in it. And you want to read all the directions. It's a little different than usual. I will show you when I make my raspberry jam in just a little bit. This comes with some recipes in it. They also have a website with a bunch of recipes. And this book right here, Preserving with Pomona's Pectin, has a bunch of recipes in it as well. And today I am making the classic raspberry preserves. I am going to make a small modification to this recipe though, even though it doesn't call for any kind of acid to be added because raspberries are acidic enough already. I like to add a little bit of lemon juice or citric acid or something like that. It's going to help preserve the color for longer. It's going to help it to stay good in the fridge for longer. And I grow a variety of colors of raspberry, and the lighter colors of fruit like white peaches, white nectarines, golden raspberries are known to have a little bit less acidity. So this is going to add a buffer for me personally. This is one of those things where I'm confident enough in this being safe. There isn't like an official recommendation on it, but it's something that I am gonna just take a precaution on. This is another pretty good canning book. It includes a lot of recipes that are not specific to canning, but it uses a lot of Pomona's pectin in the jam recipes. And this one tends to focus a little bit more on natural alternative sweeteners like maple and agave and honey. And on that, before I finally get to making my jam, let's talk about those substitutes. Honey works better with some flavors and in some recipes than others. The longer you cook honey, the more it can kind of take on a bitter flavor, or it can just kind of dominate more delicate flavors. So I tend to not use honey very much. If you want to do no sugar at all, I recommend using liquid stevia rather than sucralose or something like that. but you do want to get one that has the bitter compounds removed. So I recommend Better Stevia by Now brands. You can try to use sugar alcohols like erythritol and xylitol. However, those do crystallize when they're in liquids and gels, and it can just kind of be off-putting. If you're not quite sure how things are going to turn out, I always recommend making like a half or a quarter batch of whatever it is, testing out the sweetener and the amount that you want to use, and then just put it in the fridge and see how you like it before you commit to the entire canning process and potentially waste a bunch of ingredients. Using the long cook method with low or different types of sweeteners can work. It just kind of depends on the fruit that you're talking about. This works best for fruits that naturally have higher amounts of pectin that are firm to the touch. So something like apricots will work better than something like raspberries. Keep in mind that the higher your elevation is, the longer you're going to need to cook things to evaporate that water out. So if you are struggling with really liquidy jams and jellies, that might be the issue. I've developed this checklist to help keep myself on track when I'm canning, just because there's so many little details. You can just write them down if you want to, or you can get them at the link in my pinned comment. Number one is to just read through the recipe all the way. Next, I'll make sure my rings, jars, and lids are all completely free of chips or damage. Make sure you're using new lids each time. You don't want there to already be an indentation from another jar in these. Number three is to assemble your ingredients. I've got 2 1/4 pounds of raspberries. One of the things I love about the Pomona's cookbook is that it uses weight instead of volume for these things that are hard to measure. It's so hard when it's like 8 cups of peaches. What is 8 cups of peaches weigh? That would just be so much easier. I also have 1 1/2 cups of sugar and 1/4 cup of water along with 2 tablespoons of lemon juice in it. The lemon juice, again, is my addition. And now we need to prep the pectin situation. Each box will come with 2 packets in it. One is going to be calcium that you will mix with water, and it's referred to as calcium water in the recipes. And then your actual pectin is in the larger packet. I have a 1/2 cup of water, and I'm gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of the calcium to it. According to the instructions, then you need to use a container with a lid and shake it up. I will only use 2 teaspoons of this, so you can label it and save it for the next time you make jam, even if it's quite a ways down the road. This recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of pectin. However, I have made this before and it's a little firm for my taste, so I am just gonna reduce that a tiny bit. And you just wanna mix the pectin with your sweetener if it's a powdered sweetener, like sugar. The little paper that comes with the pectin will have all the other scenarios that you might need for honey or stevia or anything like that, so don't worry about that. Number 4 is to wash your rings, jars, and lids in warm soapy water. You can just put the jars in the dishwasher. Don't put the lids or the rings in the dishwasher, and time it to where the jars are gonna be hot when you've got hot jam ready to put into them. You do not need to worry about sterilizing the jars because in this recipe, the processing time is at least 10 minutes. You also don't need to worry about boiling these or worrying about anything sterile because let me just tell you, your kitchen is so full of mold and yeast and bacteria. It is a losing game to try to keep things sterile. So that's why we use the processes that we use and don't just pop a lid on some hot jam and let it seal and call it a day. We're planning on there being spores or bacteria or something in the jar already and just creating an environment that they won't thrive in. Use clean towels and clean washcloths and that kind of thing, but you're just never going to get sterile conditions in a home kitchen. Number 4 is to start to heat up your canner with the jars in if you're using this method. You don't want this to boil, you just want it to reach about 180 degrees. For reference, that is just about when things start to simmer. Number 5 is to add a splash of vinegar so that you don't get hard water deposits on your jars. Number 6 is to prep your recipe while your canner is heating up. I've got my raspberries here and I'm adding my water to it. This has been cooking for about 5 minutes and I've been smashing the berries as I go. Now I'm gonna shake up the calcium water again and then add 2 teaspoons of the calcium water and stir it well. And then slowly add your pectin sugar mix and stir super vigorously to try to get it distributed as quickly as possible. And keep stirring just until this gets back to a full boil and remove it from heat pretty quickly so that you don't over process the pectin. If you cook pectin for too long, it will start to degrade and then you'll end up with a syrup. Next, I'll remove each jar one at a time. Filling it with jam, leaving a 1/4 inch of headspace, and I'll double check for bubbles. Usually with jam, you don't have to really remove very many air bubbles. And then I'll wipe the jar rim and threads with some vinegar. Even if I don't think I got jam anywhere, this is just a good practice to get into. Sometimes people will ask, could I do a 1/2 inch instead of a 1/4 inch just to be safe? But I always recommend just going with what the recipe recommends, because less headspace means less oxygen, less oxidization, and that improves the quality long term of what you're canning. Next, place your lid and add your ring just with your fingers, not with your whole hand. That is finger tight. And place it back into the canner. These recipes often will say 4 to 5 pint jars, and I always plan on that lower number. I know I prepped 6 jars earlier, but I always plan on that lower number and then just putting the rest in the fridge to use immediately rather than canning a jar that isn't all the way full. Now that they're all back in the bath, I'll add the lid and turn the heat up. You probably know the drill from here, but if you don't, check out my complete guide to water bath canning.